You claim to be the man of 1,000 holds, but I counted, and you know about 60, but I know 1,004, and I wrote them all down. Here we go. Hold 1, arm drag. Hold 2, arm bar. Hold 3, the moss-covered, 3-handle family gradunzel.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. My good friend Aaron Sparrow, you might know him. He's written Darkwing Duck. He's a contributor on the Comic Book Writing 101. Are you obsessed with toys, action figures?
I'm a pretty big action figure collector. Absolutely.
What are the things you mentioned? Sorry, is at your comic shop, and you order for a couple comic shops, that the collectible section has really blown up while people have kind of taken a gander over at back issues, and they started looking at collectibles as far as places to put some money in rather than new comics. Is that what you're still seeing right now?
Absolutely. The comic book industry, the direct market, as it continues to shrink, the action figure and collectible industry continues to expand. It is now easily 90% of one of the stores and almost 100% of one of the others. It's just a big booming market right now, and the companies are putting out really great stuff, and people are loving it.
Are you talking Funko Pops? Is that what's driving the sales?
No, Funko Pops, that's an entirely different collector group. Funko
Expensive
Pops
bobbleheads is what I call them. They give those things away at baseball games.
Exactly, and that's what they are. And I'm not going to lie, I have a few that people have given me over the years. I've got a Hordak one that I really like because I'm a fan of Hordak, and then of course I've got some Disney Afternoon ones that people have given me because obviously Darkwing Duck and whatnot. So I do have a few in my collection, but the way that I would describe Funko, people that are hardcore Funko tend to be more casual fans of things. They're not your. They
want something on their desk so they can laugh about and people can. It's a conversation starter.
MCU fans that don't read the comics buy Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love Ronan, the Accuser. And then they put Ronan on their desk as a Funko Pop, and the other people in the office go, "Oh, hey, it's that guy from that movie," and they're like, "Yeah, I love that stuff," And that's and
then the comic book guy comes over and starts talking about the history of Ronan, and everyone looks at him with they start drooling and they got a blank stare on their face.
Exactly.
No one knows what you're talking about.
It's like, his first appearance was in and they immediately tune out.
Yeah. So you're into the more high-end, kind of more collectible stuff. Now, I remember when I was in the Air Force, one of the guys I worked with, he was a high-end Star Wars collector, and specifically, if there was anything Stormtrooper related, and apparently they do a lot of limited release Stormtrooper stuff. This was before Lucasfilm. This was several years ago. Like, you would have to go in there because there might only be like 150 of them. And he ended up having this really crazy, really limited, Stormtrooper thing. I believe he had a Stormtrooper outfit for when he went to cons and stuff like that. When he told me what his collection was appraised for, and he was just a dude in the Air Force like me. He wasn't an officer or anything. He made normal money. It was like $250,000.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And collectibles, much like back issues, Pele has talked about how the back issue market's been exploding for a while now. The same thing has been happening with action figures. We recently took in a huge collection from a private buyer who had collected every DC and Marvel figure from the early 90s, like up through the current day. And we bought, and he had multiples of some, but mostly it was just one-offs of everything. All still in the package, all pristine, beautiful condition. DC box sets, from back. You want Aquaman on his, coming Aquaman and Aqualad by DC Direct with the seahorse mount that Aquaman has. That's a box set. You want Lobo on his bike. That's a box set. All of that stuff. And just from a few years ago when I worked for ToyRocket.com, where we sold things at a premium price, I couldn't believe how much more those things were, just stuff that I hadn't looked at the value in years because it just doesn't come around that often. And it's been replaced by a product that maybe is superior in quality and posability and sculpting. So I hadn't looked at some of the old stuff, but some of that old stuff has gotten crazy expensive on the aftermarket. So yeah, it's a booming market right now.
So it's crazy. Where I live in the Philippines, the only real access I have are to some Star Wars toys and a little bit of MCU stuff. Otherwise, it's kind of like all Chinese knockoff type stuff. I'm not in a big city in the Philippines, unfortunately.
I
And what
actually
I've noticed,
I have a small box that I've been setting aside. I have a gift box for you that I'll be sending to the Philippines soon, just of surprise action figures for you to enjoy and to show off to your sons.
wow, well,
And then tell
I
them
can
they're
say
not allowed to touch those because those are
the
dead.
6-year-old is going to lose his little mind. He's gonna love that. So it's crazy what I've noticed, Aaron, and obviously the toys that I have access to that are Star Wars toys. It feels like the Kenner toys were built better. Is that like across the board, or is that just are the ones that they're still pricing for kids?
The ones that they're still pricing for kids, they've gone back to 5 points of articulation a couple of times. It wasn't really successful for them, but they were having trouble selling the more posable figures, which are now, for a 3 3/4 figure that when we were kids we picked up for $1 or $2. Even a 5 point of articulation figure that doesn't have that much detail is going to cost you $10 now because of the price of petroleum, which contributes to making plastic. And obviously we've got a new president, and petroleum's going through the roof. So that's affecting the toy market as well. Things are getting a little bit more expensive. We've just seen prices go up a couple of bucks across the board. But even your 5 point of articulation figures, the tooling costs almost the same as making a really posable 6-inch figure. So even those cost $10. And so that's not a very good value for a figure that's barely posable. Now you can pay up to $15 and get a 3 3/4 figure that is very posable. But again, that's $15. And for $5-6 more, you can get a 6-inch Marvel Legends figure or a Star Wars Black Series figure that's larger. So in parents' minds, that's more of more bang for your buck.
So you and I are going to be talking about the Rise of Skywalker here in a couple days on the channel. I've noticed that all of the toys that I see that are Star Wars that are still on the shelf are the new sequel stuff, and they can't really keep the original trilogy characters you can't get Darth Vader right now. You still can't get Luke Skywalker.
No, those are all still, they remain perennial favorites, and that's why it was so short-sighted of Disney to, from what we've heard, Imagineering was putting together the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and it was Tatooine, and it was Endor. Things based on the original movie trilogy. And it's reported that Kathleen Kennedy stepped in and said, no, it needed to be based on the new movies because that's what was going to be the thing going forward. And of course, those movies flopped with fans, and they don't move merchandise because they're not universally loved like the original trilogy is. So yeah, you can't keep original trilogy stuff on the shelf. You can't even keep now Disney does have some wins. The Rebels cartoon that remains very popular. Clone Wars, which they only are responsible for one season of, the rest was all done when George Lucas still owned the company, but Clone Wars stuff still sells out. Anything prequel related is still very popular. Whether it's Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan or Anakin, any of those Jedi from the prequels, or any clone, all still extremely popular and sell very well.
I imagine the Mandalorian related stuff kind of the same, right?
If it's the Mandalorian and the Child or Cara Dune, those three sell well. It's tougher to sell characters like IG-11, even though he's
what about the Hans character? Hans Zimmer, is it? No.
They haven't made him. I'll buy him in a second. I don't know how he'll. I don't know how he'll sell, but
he's the best character on the show.
Who are we thinking of? Mr. I want to see the baby.
Yeah, the German director.
Why can't I think of his name right now? I know it's not Hans Zimmer.
That's the bad guy from
Hans Gruber. You're thinking of Hans Gruber.
Hans Gruber.
You're mixing up all your Hans.
I'm
Solo,
getting it here.
Hans Zimmer, Hans Gruber, Han Jabba. They're all the same.
Oh my goodness. We're gonna cut this down after I figure out the name of this. I will edit this out. Hopefully. Okay, there's 15 more. Where is he?
What is this?
Werner Herzog.
Thank you. Why was I blanking on that?
Hans Zimmer. What about the Werner Herzog character? He was like the best thing from the Mandalorian.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Love that character.
I want to figure of that guy. Look, I want a figure of Bill Burr in both his regular outfit with his little backpack gun and with him in the tech driver outfit. So the mainline characters remain popular. Grief Karga, Quill, even Moff Gideon, not quite as popular. Those have hung around longer than than obviously the Mandalorian or the Child or Cara Dune have. Cara Dune was popular even before they fired Gina Carano, and then she just became white hot popular afterwards. So,
everyone knew it'd be limited. Plus, they wanted to show support.
Yeah, exactly. So, they showed support by putting money in the pocket of the company that fired her. But I understand the thought. They want to have that thing. They want to have that representation of that character because they like that character and they want to support Gina Carano. So I understand why people went out and bought those in droves and paid premium prices on them because they're afraid they're not going to be able to get them anymore because Kathleen Kennedy is so insane.
So when we go over to like Marvel and DC, as far as like comic book collections and action figures, collectibles, like what's hot right now? Is Marvel still ruling the roost? Is it DC? Is it, obviously I imagine Batman still does good.
Marvel Legends puts out basically a new assortment of figures. It seems like almost every month, at least every month and a half, there's something new out. Plus, they're doing deluxe figures like MODOK, different things like that. So
Elvis MODOK.
Elvis MODOK is coming. We just got that reveal. I think that's going to be a Hasbro Pulse exclusive coming with the Captain from Next Wave. Wes and I were looking at that earlier and talking about it. So, you're getting a lot of stuff from Marvel. So Marvel is still a big moneymaker for Hasbro, obviously, and seems to be a real cash cow because they're pumping stuff out. We just got the Villains wave. It was just a wave of like all of the kind of like a Bring on the Bad Guys wave. You had Red Skull. You had the AIM Scientist Supreme, the Hood, characters like that, Lady Deathstrike, just a mix of villains, not a single hero in the line. That one was very popular. The Disney Plus wave just came out, featuring Captain America, Falcon, Bucky, Baron Zemo. The hot one out of that one is Scarlet Witch from WandaVision. Otherwise, the rest of them are kind of slow movers. So the Disney Plus stuff is not tracking as well as some of the mainline MCU stuff, or definitely not the comic book figures. But Marvel Legends still kind of rules the roost right now. Star Wars is very popular, but not coming out as quickly. McFarlane right now is killing it with his DC Multiverse figures. There's a new assortment out every month, so it's like killer for people to keep up with. But then conversely, he's also doing really nice like Mortal Kombat figures, but it seems like we only get those every 3 months, and instead of like an assortment of 6 different characters, we get like 2 characters per assortment. So it's weird how things are spaced out. Like some things obviously are being pumped out every single month to the point where fans are like, oh my God, I'm eating ramen to buy these toys.
What are your thoughts on McFarlane toys? Is he competitive in the market? Is he an innovator? I've heard that.
I would say he definitely is. I do have some minor complaints about McFarlane. He always does his own scale. So whatever the popular scale is, he's always like, well, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna do something else. And so
you can't play with the toys together? They don't look right when they're on the shelf together?
They don't look right. So my feeling on the industry is Marvel Legends is leading the pack. So if you want your line to be as successful as possible, you kind of want them to be compatible with the leader so that people can put them together. Whether you're adults putting them on the shelf, you want to have Batman fighting Daredevil. It's just what you want on your shelf. It looks cool, satisfies that fanboy crossover urge. But kids love it too. Kids are always like coming in, they're buying a Power Ranger, they're buying a Marvel Legends figure, and they're looking for a Batman because they want to have that combined universe. They want to let their imagination run wild with these different characters. So I think that you should hew towards the industry leader. Todd doesn't do that. He does his own thing. So all the Multiverse figures are 7 or almost 8 inches, and so they kind of tower above the Marvel Legends and aren't really compatible. He's doing really well with sales. Can't complain about the sales.
Hey, that's what He-Man did when the industry standard was G.I. Joe. He-Man was like 2 inches bigger.
Yep, but now He-Man and G.I. Joe can be on the same battlefield because they're both in 6-inch scale in certain collections. So, you can have them together. And I wish Todd would have done that. I as well as Multiverse is selling, it would have sold even better if it tied in, because I've got people who just won't buy them because they're like, it doesn't fit in with anything else that I've got. And so that's the problem with Todd making his own scale. Aside from that, he's killing it. He's keeping the price point low. He's, you can get them cheaper than you can even Marvel Legends. He's not charging as much for his figures as Hasbro is to the retailer, and keeping that competitive $20 price tag for the most part, except on deluxe figures or Build-A-Figures, ones that come with parts to build something. Those run about $25. But the main difference between McFarlane Toys being a small company and Hasbro Toys being a large corporation, that boggles my mind is every figure that Todd is putting out is a unique sculpt. Hasbro reuses a lot of bodies, they reuse a lot of parts, which you can really get away with superheroes. But Todd is doing a unique sculpt for every character and unique textures and you know. Just,
so he's paying for its own unique molding and all that stuff for every single action figure.
Yeah, it's not, you know, he's making a new mold for everything. Nothing really seems to be getting reused, or if it is, it's very minor.
That's dope. That's why a lot of people consider him one of the industry leaders. Obviously, I don't know much about toys as you do. Who are some of the other companies out there besides McFarlane that when you're putting something out that's in your wheelhouse, you're like, that's an instant buy?
Mezco right now is killing it with their 1/12 collective line. It's fully posable 6-inch action figures with cloth outfits that are really detailed. They just put out an exclusive roadblock for G.I. Joe that I had to snap up as we started to record. I was like, hang on, Wes, I got to buy these toys. I put you on hold for a moment while I was messing around on my phone, making sure I ordered them.
Well, and your partner Silvani called in, and he was checking on his toys.
Yeah, I'm calling and checking on his Transformers, which is also killing it right now. Transformers are huge again. They really did themselves a service by going back to like some G1 designs and saying like, okay, we're going to put a bunch of the G1 characters together and the Beast Wars characters together in a consistent scale with each other. And fans responded even before the Netflix show hit. And then the Netflix show hit and people liked it, and they're coming in. You know, kids are interested in Transformers again because there's a cartoon to support it. So, you know, those
I miss the days of the metal Transformer, though, Aaron Sparrow. Those things could not be busted. My son loves Transformers. We play with a lot of Bumblebees, Optimus Prime type characters. They all break within days.
Do they really? I guess kids are rougher on them. They're really made now so that if you put too much stress on any particular joint, they're made to kind of pop apart.
Yes, as soon as my son figures out that he can pull the arm off, he pulls it off until it breaks. About 100,000 times in 2 days.
Yeah, it's not made for that kind of wear and tear.
I'm telling you, if you had that original Bumblebee that was made out of metal, you ain't no breaking that thing. You break yourself.
I don't know. Like I had Megatron, and Megatron broke all the time. Like I went through 3.
He was more complicated because he was a gun. Well, I guess he was a cannon.
He also had these really skinny struts that like moved out like into his arms, and then you'd end up tearing the arm piece out. And, yeah, so it was you try to glue it, and it would just never be right again.
I miss like the Constructicons where you had like that 5-piecer that you ended up putting together and ended up being an enormous one, kind of like Voltron, but you know, it's still Transformers.
Yep. Those were always very popular. Those are still very popular. You know, they actually sell them individually, and then they put them out in box sets sometimes, so you can just get the whole big gestalt all in one shot, or you can collect it piecemeal. I loved in for the Bay movie, like going, do you have Long Haul? Because Long Haul apparently wasn't produced in the same numbers as everybody else, so nobody can complete that big ugly Devastator from Revenge of the Fallen.
When I was a kid, I loved G.I. Joe, I loved He-Man, and I loved Transformers, but Transformers was easily the one I loved the most, but it was also the most expensive. So it was the hardest one to get mom or dad to convince to buy me one.
Yeah, that was the toughest. It was tough to have a Transformers collection. I was fortunate in that my grandmother, who always tried to make up for the fact that my mom was a psychopath. She would always try and make sure we had a good birthdays, good Christmas. If we went to visit her, we'd get to go get a toy. You know, like she was always trying to kind of like compensate in that way and make sure that we had that we didn't feel left out with the other neighborhood kids. So she really tried hard. So I had some Transformers there, but
my grandma was the same way, but she took us to Kmart. Not as good a selection as Walmart, even back in the day.
See, I didn't have Walmart where, Walmart wasn't out here in California until, I didn't even hear of a Walmart until I was a senior in high school. And we had a classmate from Kansas, and she was telling me, well, we went down to the Walmart. And I'm like, what the hell is a Walmart?
Makes sense. I'm from Missouri.
Yeah, I was like, Walmart? What is it? Just like a bunch of, is that where like drywallers go to get their materials? Like what?
Everywhere now.
They infected California and are now some of the dirtiest places to go in the state. So,
yeah, Walmart's it's like going to a casino, but you don't have the fun gambling. You know what I mean?
Kmart had a good selection when I was a kid. And they also carried those weird like Remco figures that were like He-Man knockoffs and things like that you could pick up to
They would be on the end aisles, and they're always like half price.
Yeah, you could find like I got my Crystar figures from Kmart. They also carried Cops, Fighting Crime in a Future Time, which I was big into that as a kid.
All right, so you mentioned McFarlane Toys. You've talked about some of the Hasbro stuff. Obviously, you just mentioned Mezco. Is there another company out there that just really is knocking it out of the park, or are those the ones to be looking out for?
NECA is killing it right now. They have the license for Predators, Aliens. They've got all the
nice. So they're not in the Hasbro family like the rest of the Disney stuff.
No, they are not, and hopefully they never will be, because NECA does such a good job with those. I would hate to see them go anywhere else. They also have a limited version of the Ninja Turtle license, so they're doing some really nice movie turtles, some really nice cartoon turtles, and then their stuff is just beautiful. And years ago, their stuff used to break really easily, but they've really come into their own and learned from their mistakes and have better quality materials now that don't break easily. So
I know you remember this 1987. Next thing you know, you're watching Ninja Turtles. You'd never heard of it before, but then it was your favorite cartoon immediately, and they just had the best lineup of toys you'd ever seen. Like you had the van that had the pizza shooter on it. You had like the Technodrome thing, and the turtles were just awesome. Like those dudes knew how to, like when they came out guns blazing with that toy line.
You know what the great thing is right now, all of those old Playmates toys are being remade by Super 7. And Super 7 is like, they're just exact replicas of those toys, but more posable, a little bit larger, and with more accessories and with better paint applications. You'd get those old Playmate toys and you'd look and there'd be all this detail on them that they didn't paint because it would be too expensive. And Super 7 is now doing those. They're about $50 a piece. But when they come out, man, they are just the best representation of those classic sculpts.
I always liked Raphael, but that Casey Jones toy I always thought was the best one they came out with.
Casey Jones is like in series 3 or 4. He's not out yet, but he's coming.
Yeah, I don't think he came out initially either with that initial line of toys. But when he finally came out, I was like, that's the slickest one they got.
I had just decided to rebuy. I've still got all the Ninja Turtles from back in the day, that from when my brother stopped playing with them. I've got like most of his collection of turtles, but I had decided to rebuy everything, and then go through and repaint them all myself and bring out all the detail in those sculpts.
You're refurbishing them.
Yeah, I was going to refurbish a bunch of old ones, and like the same week that I had decided, well, that's what I'm going to do. I went to PowerCon, and Super 7 was there, and they had unveiled that they were doing those turtles in new sculpts and everything. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm buying these instead. I don't have to do all that paint work because they're doing it for me. I couldn't have been happier. Super 7's killing it right now. They've got the license for Silverhawks now, so we're gonna get Silverhawks figures that are the same size as He-Man and Thundercats, and they're doing, of course, the Thundercats. So
love Thundercats. When you had the one dude at the back and he would do his paint throw where you do the nunchucks.
Yeah, you don't get those action features anymore because they interfere with the posability, and people want posability more than they want to be able to push a button and have the guy kick.
Because they're for adults, they're not for kids anymore, Aaron. You've ruined it.
That's right. Kids loved those action features. I hated them because they interfered with what I wanted to do with the figures. That's why G.I. Joe appealed to me, because you didn't really get.
You wanted to put them out there and take pictures of them, didn't you? You wanted to make.
No, I used to, with G.I. Joe, like, my brother and I would spend hours. Like, it'd be like, okay, on Saturday we're playing G.I. Joe. And it would be the whole day, because we would have to map out our battle plan and then set up all our troops in the backyard.
We would dig up like trenches, and there would be like little underground pits with like stakes in them, and you forget where they were after a couple days, and you'd accidentally step on it and stake yourself. We would have like ridges and battle lines. Yeah, we would do that too.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We even had a little red felt pen too, so that we could draw blood on them, so we knew who got injured, who got shot, and where.
We would take like a shirt and you'd cut it up, and you'd start making like canopies and stuff for guys to be hanging out and doing watch.
Yep.
Yeah.
And all the trenches. I mean, my childhood backyard, somewhere back there's still there's undoubtedly still an original Firefly figure that was covered in a landslide that we forgot. And then we forgot where the landslide was, and he's lost. Sadly we left a man behind. It still bothers me to this day.
Absolutely. That was always the worst if you left him out there because you got called in for dinner. You forgot that you set up your big battle, and then it rained really hard. And you come back like, oh, I'm going to have to find these guys. I know a couple of them were hiding.
When we would go to visit my great-grandfather, he had a big setup, like this big farmhouse display that he had built. He built the house, and he built the barn, and it was all like, kind of really nicely done. He was an excellent carpenter. And so when we would go there, we would always like be excited because we'd take our GI Joes, and it would be like, all right, Cobra's taking over this farmhouse, and GI Joe's got to come in and liberate. Cobra's using it as a front. They're building some stuff in the barn, and so we would do that. And one year we got home from visiting Grandpa, we were going back to our GI Joes, and we were like, wait a minute, where's our Toxo Viper? We had a Toxo Viper. Where is he? And then I realized, oh crap, we set him up behind the barn like for an ambush. And we forgot him. And so we went back, like, we didn't even think to call Grandpa and say, hey, can you bring this in the house? So 6 months later, we go to visit them again. And my brother and I jump out of the car. The first thing we do is run over to that farmhouse. And poor Toxo Viper's still there. He's like coated in cobwebs and is now sort of like leaning forward. Whereas before he was
stood his post to the end. He never gave up.
It's like those Japanese soldiers that nobody told that, the war had ended in World
Absolutely.
War II. Still on the island. Felt bad.
It's a good soldier right there.
Yep, we went back for him.
At least you went back for that one. He didn't get lost. Obviously, Aaron, we could talk about toys and what's hot right now and the things that we liked as a kid. We could go on for hours. This is just a tester run. Aaron and I are going to start talking about toys likely once a week, maybe once every other week. We're going to call it 5 figures a week. Aaron's actually going to be on camera and show some of his collections, what toys are hot on the market right now, why they're hot, and maybe how you can adjust some toys that are on there to the character that you like that isn't being put out there. I know you made a Dokken, right?
I did. I made a Dokken, and actually I'm just finishing up the Rose from Spider-Man right now.
So Aaron's going to show you some of the cool stuff and then some ways that you can adjust some of these toys and make the stuff you want.
Absolutely. If people are interested, we'll definitely do that.
Yes, you got to let us know that you want more of this. But I had a lot of fun, Aaron. Like I said, we could talk toys forever.
Yeah, no, toys are fun. Unlike comics, toys are still fun.
Yeah, you can't. Well, they can ruin it, but they haven't yet.
No, haven't yet.